There are 5 main covenants that God has made with man. And in this message, we shall look briefly at each one of the 5. 4 are in the Old Testament, and 1 is in the New Testament. Hello, I'm Kathy Bartow. First of all, what is a covenant? Well, perhaps the easiest way to define it is for us to look at our marriage vows. A Christian marriage is a covenant made between 2 people with God at its center. Mark chapter 10, verses 6 through 9 tells us, God made them male and female. Therefore a man shall leave his father and mother and hold fast to his wife. And the 2 shall become one flesh. So they are no longer 2, but one flesh. What therefore God has joined together, let not man separate. A covenant is a promise by God to mankind. The 5 covenants are the Noahic Covenant, the Abrahamic Covenant, the Mosaic Covenant, the Davidic Covenant, and the New Covenant. The Noahic Covenant is an unconditional covenant. Listen to Genesis chapter 9, verses 8 through 17. Then God said to Noah and to his sons with him, Behold, I establish my covenant with you and your offspring after you, and with every living creature that is with you, the birds, the livestock, and every beast of the earth with you, as many as came out of the ark. It is for every beast of the earth I establish my covenant with you, that never again shall all flesh be cut off by the waters of the flood, and never again shall there be a flood to destroy the earth. And God said, This is the sign of the covenant that I make between me and you and every living creature that is with you for all future generations. I have set my bow in the cloud, and it shall be a sign of the covenant between me and the earth. When I bring clouds over the earth and the bow is seen in the clouds, I will remember my covenant that is between me and you and every living creature of all flesh. And the waters shall never again become a flood to destroy all flesh. When the bow is in the clouds, I will see it and remember the everlasting covenant between God and every living creature of all flesh that is on the earth. God said to Noah, This is a sign of the covenant that I have established between me and all flesh that is on the earth. The bow that God is referring to is the rainbow. The Abrahamic Covenant. This is an unconditional covenant. God is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. God's covenant with Abraham, Genesis 12, verses 1 through 3. Now the Lord said to Abram, Go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you. And I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great, so that you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and him who dishonors you I will curse. And in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed. God reaffirmed the same covenant with Isaac, Abraham's son. Genesis 26, verses 3 and 4. I will be with you and will bless you, for to you and to your offspring I will give all these lands. And I will establish the oath that I swore to Abraham your father. I will multiply your offspring as the stars of heaven, and will give to your offspring all these lands. And in your offspring all the nations of the earth shall be blessed. The same covenant was affirmed with Isaac's son Jacob. Genesis chapter 28, verses 13 through 17. The Lord stood above it and said, I am the Lord, the God of Abraham your father and the God of Isaac. The land on which you lie I will give to you and to your offspring. Your offspring shall be like the dust of the earth, and you shall spread abroad to the west and to the east and to the north and to the south. And in you and your offspring shall all the families of the earth be blessed. Behold, I am with you and will keep you wherever you go, and I will bring you back to this land, for I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised you. Then Jacob awoke from his sleep and said, Surely the Lord is in this place. and I did not know it. And he was afraid and said, "How awesome is this place! This is none other than the house of God, and this is the gate of heaven." As part of God's promise, Abraham's descendants would not only inherit the land of Canaan, they would be as numerous as the stars and eventually become a mighty nation and a blessing to all the world. The Mosaic Covenant is also known as the Sinaitic Covenant, and that's after Mount Sinai. This is a conditional covenant, and it was established with the people of Israel at Mount Sinai after God led them out of slavery in Egypt. With it, God supplied the 613 laws plus the 10 commandments that are meant to govern the shape and people of Israel in the Promised Land. The Mosaic Covenant, as I said, was a conditional covenant. Listen to Exodus chapter 19, verses 3-6. Then Moses went up to God, and the Lord called to him from the mountain and said, "This is what you are to say to the descendants of Jacob, and what you are to tell the people of Israel. You yourselves have seen what I did to Egypt, and how I carried you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. Now if you obey me fully and keep my covenant, then out of all the nations you will be my treasured possession. Although the whole earth is mine, you will be for me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words you are to speak to the Israelites." God supplied the laws that were meant to govern and shape the people of Israel. This covenant was conditional. It defined blessings and curses based on obedience or disobedience. The Davidic Covenant. This was an unconditional covenant, and it was God's unconditional promise to David that he would have an eternal dynasty. 2 Samuel chapter 7, verse 16. "And your house and your kingdom shall be made sure forever before me. Your throne shall be established forever." The provisions of the Davidic Covenant center around three major components: an everlasting throne, an everlasting king, and an everlasting kingdom. Christianity traces David's lineage to Jesus Christ, who was a descendant of David many generations removed. Joseph is clearly pointed out as the descendant of David in both genealogies. Because of Mary's marriage to Joseph, she enters his family and legally becomes, as does her son Jesus, a part of the house of David. The New Covenant. This is an unconditional covenant. It's one that is mentioned many times throughout the Old Testament in that it points to a future Messiah. Christians believe that Jesus Christ is the promised Messiah who presides over the New Covenant. The covenant proclaims Jesus Christ as the one and only Son of God, who died on the cross, shed his blood, was buried, and then rose on the third day with a resurrected body. Listen to Matthew 26, verses 26-29. Jesus took bread, and after blessing it, broke it and gave it to the disciples, and said, "Take, eat, this is my body." And he took a cup, and when he had given thanks, he gave it to them, saying, "Drink of it, all of you, for this is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins. I tell you, I will not drink again of this fruit of the vine until that day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom." This is an unconditional covenant that was established between God and all of mankind who choose to obey God's commands for eternal salvation. Remember John chapter 3, verse 16? "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life." Till next time, peace be with you.